Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special impromptu live stream update of the Dungeons & Dragons controversy, because we have a brand new entry into the grand panoply of this absolute and total train wreck. Just about an hour ago, Wizards of the Coast, or D&D Beyond specifically, whichever you want to call it, released a brand new statement in regards to all of the hubbub. If you don't know about the OGL and the controversy taking place, I did a stream on this a couple of days ago with the last update from Wizards of the Coast. In summary, and this is a very, very thin summary for the sake of time, years and years ago, Dungeons & Dragons, we'll just call that for the sake of hubris, the company that produces the game, allowed other people to make works based on their system and their property that they could then add into the grand expanse of the game that players could use, that they could even sell and make money on. It was an effort to encourage people to participate in the games that we all love, tabletop and otherwise, but specifically to up the ante in the value of Dungeons & Dragons as a brand and a franchise. Because anything anybody made would effectively require you to own, or at least have access to, the Dungeons & Dragons products to which they're attached. And this worked out well for many, 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 many years. Well, all of a sudden, within the last month or so, Dungeons & Dragons decided to change the rules. And as a consequence of this, they have awoken a sleeping giant. And we'll go through that in a second. But first, holy cow, you guys. Shady Grin, thank you so much. These fools already burned so many bridges, mine included. I doubt anything they say will allow them to recover. That said, the quote tweets of the announcement sound almost hopeful, which kind of bothers me. Well, yes, the reaction from the fans, especially the paying customers to their D&D Beyond online service, scared them and caused them to, at least in their last announcement, seemingly walk back things that had already been leaked as happening. But here's the fundamental problem, and I'll get into it more so as we continue. The fact that they showed their hand, so to speak, in what they meant to do and what they wanted to do, just means that they can try something like this again in the future. And the fact that they're willing to do that and were willing to do that up until they were exposed, yeah, those bridges, as you say, have been burned. We'll get into that in a second. Thank you again, Derek LaRue, so much, always, for your support. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. I hope I can effectively earn such generosity as we proceed. Same with you, Shady. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into it. Let's read what they have to say. This is from Kyle Brink. Hi. Oh, sorry. A working conversation about the open game license. All right. Hi, I'm Kyle Brink, the executive producer on D&D. It's my team that makes the game we all play. D&D has been a huge part of my life long before I worked at Wizards, and will be for a long time after I'm done. My mission, and that of the entire D&D team, is to help bring everyone the creative joy and lifelong friendships that D&D has given us. I'll extend the benefit of the doubt. I don't know who Kyle Brink is, but sure, okay. These past days and weeks have been incredibly tough for everyone. I think they've been more tough for your concern and Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro by extension, but okay. As players, fans, and stewards of the game, we can't and we won't let things continue like this. You started it. I don't know what to tell you. This is a you problem. But okay, what do you have to say? I am here today to talk about a path forward. All right. First, though, let me start with an apology. We are sorry. We got it wrong. Oh, so you mean in the last statement that indicated that the leaked document that everybody was looking at was just a draft? It didn't really reflect reality. Okay. Our language and requirements in the draft OGL, it wasn't a draft. It was the final copy. Okay, Kickstarter and other concerns that were involved in the communications on that license, 1.1. They had started making changes to their own policies based on that final copy. You guys keep referring to it as a draft. There is every indication that that was the version that was going to go out publicly if it hadn't been leaked early. But whatever. Our language and requirements in the draft OGL were disruptive to creators and not in support of our core goals of protecting and cultivating an inclusive play environment and limiting the OGL to tabletop RPGs. If it was your core goal, then why was that language in there in the first place? It wasn't your core goal. Your core goal was to monetize a whole lot of other people's work, both now and retroactively. That's how it played out in the first version of this. Then we compounded things by being silent for too long. Yeah, because you were caught completely by surprise and you didn't know what to do until you started seeing the numbers drop in D&D Beyond subscriptions. You thought it'd blow over, but whatever. We hurt fans and creators when more frequent and clear communications could have prevented so much of this. The language seemed to be pretty clear in the 1.1 OGL. And it has been picked over with a fine-tooth comb, not unlike Spaceballs. At the same time, though, unlike Spaceballs, something was found by many lawyers. But anyway, starting now, we're going to do this a better way, more open and transparent. Oh, yep, unlike trying to stealth release the new OGL update without letting anybody know ahead of time or getting community feedback ahead of time. No, you got corporate feedback ahead of time. With our entire community of creators. Well, now you're going to let us in on it. Okay. With the time to iterate, to get feedback, and to improve. Okay, you're a day late and several hundreds of thousands of dollars short, and probably millions going into the future. This is how it should have been at the beginning. Not after the fact, not after you've been called out, not after you've been caught trying to put your hand in everybody else's cookie jars. If this sounds familiar, it's because it's how we do it for the game itself. So let's do it that way for the OGL too. Yeah, exactly. Only now you're doing it. We'll listen to you, and then we will share with you what we've heard, much like we do in our Unearthed Arcana and 1D&D playtests. This will be a robust conversation before we release any future version of the OGL. Again, the cat is out of the bag, guys. You already blew up the entire community. It is fractured. Other publishers are looking like legitimate heroes at this point for making up their own resources for players to use. You have alienated your entire customer and fan base that cares about this stuff to the point of continuing to buy your products. This might be actually worse than the last announcement, because this pretends like they didn't do the exact opposite all the way up to this point. Now we're going to be transparent. You've lost people's trust. The trust in your company and your communication with your own fans and customers is lost. But okay, what are we to expect? Number one, on or before Friday, January 20th, we'll share new proposed OGL documentation for your review and feedback, much as we do with playtest materials. Yes, now you will. Number two, after you review the proposed OGL, you will be able to fill out a quick survey, much like Unearthed Arcana playtest feedback surveys. It will ask you specific questions about the document and include open form fields to share any other feedback you have. Oh man. I can't wait to see a compilation of the submitted forms if they are ever made public. Can you imagine open field forms? Or open form fields on a survey back to D&D at this point? Oh Lord. 3, the survey will remain open for at least 2 weeks, and we'll give you advance notice before it closes so that everyone who wants to participate can complete the survey. Then we will compile, analyze, react to, and present back what we heard from you. I'm sure you're going to leave out quite a bit, because it'll probably be not safe for family consumption. But yeah. Finally, you deserve some stability and clarity. Only now, apparently. We are committed, are you, to giving creators both input into and room to prepare for any update to the OGL. Only now. Also, there's a ton of stuff that isn't going to be affected by an OGL update. So today, right now, we'll lay out all the areas that this conversation won't touch. Okay, hold on a second. If it was always D&D and Wizards of the Coast's intent to seek feedback, seek input, and so on, why aren't you releasing a timeline of how you plan to do that before this all blew up? Right? Why isn't there an internal document, a copy that you can show us that says, on this date, we will share this document with all the concerned entities for their feedback. Then on this date, we will release information on the OGL in preparation for its eventual publication to the customers, to the fans, with a survey that we plan to release. If you had any intention of getting feedback from people before you publish this thing, why aren't you telling us that? If it was always your intention, then you can show us evidence that everybody jumped the gun on this. That you had a plan to roll out from the get-go that would do this very thing, but now you're being forced to do it early, let's say. You're not saying anything like that. All of this is last-minute, 11th hour CYA. Unless you've got evidence to the contrary, because that's what this reads like. Any changes to the OGL will have no impact on at least these creative efforts. Number one, your video content. Whether you are a commentator, streamer, podcaster, live play cast member, or other video creator on platforms like YouTube and Twitch and TikTok, you have always been covered by the Wizards and content policy. The OGL doesn't and won't touch any of this. All right? 2, your accessories for your own content. No changes to the OGL will affect your ability to sell minis, novels, apparel, dice, and other items related to your creations, characters, and worlds. Okay? 3, non-published works, for instance, contracted services. You use the OGL if you want to publish your works that reference 5th edition content through the SRD. That means commissioned work, paid DM services, consulting, and so on aren't affected by the OGL. Okay? VTT content. Any updates to the OGL will still allow any creator to publish content on VTTs, that's virtual tabletops, and will still allow virtual tabletop publishers to use OGL content on their platform. Okay, DM's Guild content. The content you release on DM's Guild is published under a community content agreement with Dungeon Masters Guild. This is not changing. Your OGL 1.0A content. This is for stuff that people created prior to all this hubbub. Nothing will impact any content you have published under OGL 1.0A. That will always be licensed under OGL 1.0A. What happens with 1.0 without the A? I'm not a lawyer. I assume that means something specific. Your revenue. There will be no royalty or financial reporting requirements. Okay, well, setting aside the trust issue, which is out the window, that one I'm very happy to see, because that was a thing that everybody was getting up in arms about everything else, is that they were going to monetize your own content, which is the last one here. Your ownership of your content. You will continue to own your content with no license back requirements. Okay, yeah, so the two major concerns for a lot of people were A, that WotC and D&D were going to effectively charge you for making content based on their stuff in opposition to the original OGL. So if I created a supplement for Dungeons and Dragons of a new character race or a campaign or something, they were going to take a cut of that, depending on how much I made on it. But more so, the possibility that they would own anything that I made and could publish it and resell it at their leisure at some point in the future. So apparently now they're saying that's not going to happen. That's all from me for now. You will hear again from us on or before Friday, as described above, and we look forward to the conversation. Kyle Brink, executive producer, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. Okay. Well, all of those bullet points sound good, but then not having a copy of the revised OGL in front of me, and as well not being a contract lawyer of any stripe, I don't know what the end result will actually be. But that's beside the point, because the real story here is that all trust in this company and all trust in the people running D&D has been lost. And this statement, in fact, in what it does not say, in what it does not clarify, at least to me, implicitly indicates a lot. As I said, there is nothing here saying that the leak of the document accelerated their plans to do a community feedback process. There's nothing here that says we intended to do it from the beginning. There's nothing here that indicates that they had any desire to get the community feedback before they released this deal. And we know for a fact that corporate interests and Kickstarter type fundraiser interests received a copy of the 1.1 OGL before everybody else. That's how it was leaked, conceivably. Someone in that stream of communication leaked it out to IO9 and other places. So, I don't think this helps them much. All right, this might settle the nerves of people who have already published items for D&D or are in the process of publishing items for D&D, but I have a feeling that those publishers, independent or otherwise, that are or have been working on D&D related products or supplements, after they're done with their current projects, I would be surprised if they give any effort towards making any more content for D&D, unless it just happens to be a continuing source of reliable revenue. That's about the only thing I can think of. Anybody who's doing it for fun, anybody that's doing it out of some passion or some loyalty to the brand, big question marks. Big question marks as to whether or not you want to continue working for and supporting a company like this. And whether it was D&D or probably Hasbro from the top, either way, would you want to give your money to a company that's going to double talk and try to rug pull everybody on this? Because they're going to do it again. In some way, shape, or form, they're going to do it again because they have a lot riding on this. They've got a movie, a D&D movie coming out soon. They've got a D&D streaming series in the works right now. And the CEO of Hasbro, or at least the person in charge of this division that handles D&D, is talking about and complaining about how unmonetized D&D is compared to some of their other products. Yeah. So regardless, if the concern was, hey, D&D is going to be stealing my work and charging it and monetizing it, apparently, at least according to the statement, that's off the table now. But that's not the harm. The real harm was you guys tried to do this in the dead of night when nobody was looking, and only when you were caught do you try to make up for it. It's not going to work. Your market share has just gone into the toilet. Everybody's running over to Pathfinder. Everybody's becoming really interested in Warhammer thanks to Henry Cavill. And with Paizo and the other publishers putting together their own open gaming license for a system that anybody can use in perpetuity, no strings attached, the utility of your open game license for D&D is going to go by the wayside. But that's the other part that I want to talk about real quick. The great video by Legal Eagle just came out the other day, and he brought up something that I know I'd heard somewhere in the past, but he made a great point about the whole open gaming license. The myth effectively is, if I decide to make a game using a 20-sided die that uses a system of adding a roll of the die to a stat on a sheet plus other mechanics within Dungeons and Dragons, if I want to make a game completely using that exact same system, D&D doesn't own the system. There is established legal precedent. You cannot copyright a system or a method. It's open source effectively. The eventual product, the expression of the product, that can be copyrighted and trademarked. Right? I can't use any D&D settings or names of things or logos or whatever. But if I strip out all the trademark information off of a D&D character sheet, and I just had spaces for numbers and lines for stats, and I made a whole different game based on that exact same system, nothing legally is stopping me from doing that right now, and hasn't since the OGL was created technically back in 2000, or conceivably before that. So the idea that you had to get some kind of like special permission from D&D to make a D20 game using their mechanics is probably, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but just, go check out Legal Eagle's video. But seemingly, if the law is to be believed, it's never been an issue. You've never been in peril if you decided to make your own game, just happening to use the same mechanics out of the D&D system. Yeah, but anyway, all of this stuff is coming to the fore now, and it's all D&D's fault. The OGL would not be being picked over by every legal expert on the planet right now, and the lawyers for all the other publishing companies, if this hadn't happened. If you guys had been transparent from the beginning, if you'd been upfront and sought feedback from the community before any of this started, you would have kept people's loyalty by bringing them in on the project from the get-go, but you didn't. You didn't. And like somebody on a YouTube show that I saw the other day made a very good point. If you wanted to tick off the worst population of people when it comes to a small ragtag band of individuals having to face off against insurmountable odds, gamers were your worst choice. But what do you guys think? I'll get a couple minutes here for you guys before I go off to the wonderful world of lunch. Tyrannus, Alexandrius, Tremere Lich, D&D isn't the only D20 system. Monty Cook and Mutants and Masterminds. Yeah, well, I mean, you can carry that forward from any system, any game system. If you strip out all of the trademark or copyrighted material from it and just get down to the brass tacks of the number crunching, and you replicate that over into a completely different setting with a different brand name and different characters, you're on safe ground legally, as far as I've been told. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but go check out Legal Eagle's video on it. More likely than not, there was never any danger of just using the system. It's all about the trademark expressions of different things that you have to be careful for. Dr. Functional, the best campaigns I've ever been in had little to do with the book/rules. It was all the DM. That's true too. I've had a hard time using campaign books before in games that I've either run or been involved in, because players are so creative and so unpredictable outside the boundaries of most campaigns. Ultimately, the DM is going to have to compensate for other people's imaginations. And it really is a test of a DM, if they have a campaign book in front of them, that they possess the ability to work around the creativity of the characters beyond the boundaries of what the campaign book says. So, yeah. And I've only used a campaign book once, and it was effectively a glorified reference manual. And after that, the story just went on its own, and I rarely looked at the campaign book again, except to go back for maybe stats on a character or something. So, yeah, homebrew stuff or just making it up as you go as a DM or coming up with a concept. That's been where I've had the most fun. Tyrannus again, we challenge insurmountable odds all the time for fun. Imagine what we can do when we are fighting for our way of life. Exactly. You take somebody who their passion is this thing, let alone their livelihood, but let's just say their passion, years of their lives, their social circle, everything else is baked into this particular hobby, and then maybe even this particular IP, and then you say, hey, you guys don't matter. Not only do you don't matter, but the people who've published material you like, they don't matter to us either, except as walking wallets. Yeah, can you imagine? Shady Grin, their books were dwindling in quality. Third party is where D&D shined, and Wizards knew that. Yeah, that seemed to be the... I'm not a D&D aficionado, right? But everything I've ever heard from D&D fanatics is that D&D effectively peaked at 3.5, and 4 was an absolute dumpster fire, and 5 was better-ish. But yeah, their record for quality products over the last several iterations has, as far as I've heard through the grapevine and elsewise, not been that great. Let's see. Anybody else? Super Koopa Gaming. It's all meant to consolidate D&D and make it the only game in town at the end of the day. Yeah, well, they effectively shot that in the foot, didn't they? They fractured their fan base. They sent customers to competition. And now more competition is going to build out of people's interest in this thing. And a lot of people will be inspired to make their own games. That's the other thing too. That's the part that I'm really kind of happy about. There's a real push for what is being called the Iron Age of content creation, both comic books, short films, feature films, and so on. People trying to get away from this restrictive, politically correct, everybody's got to walk on eggshells mentality of modern Hollywood, modern publishing, modern gaming, and so on. Yeah. I think ultimately this is a blessing in disguise for tabletop gaming in general, and yeah, just media writ large and storytelling. It takes something like this. It takes somebody thinking that they own all the hotels on Boardwalk to really show what competition looks like, and that's what's going to come out of this, I think. Kiever Dam, I'm about to go off to the wonderful world of work. Well, hi ho, it's off to work. Kiever Dam goes. Best of luck, Kiever Dam. I know it's a rough slog, but we're halfway through the week, so we're almost there. Anyway, everybody, just wanted to give you that update. I've done a couple of videos now on Dungeons and Dragons, articles there about and gaming in general. Again, I'm not a D&D freakazoid, but I am a big tabletop RPG fan and enthusiast, and so when I see things like this affecting my fellow gamers or the industry in which these things are involved, I always find it at least morbidly curious and interesting. And the reactions and the responses, corporate and otherwise, from D&D and Hasbro on this have been chef's kiss of shooting yourself in the foot. And I can't wait for the next one, because as much as this one might have, again, it put a salve on the wound of people fearing that their entire livelihoods and potential future earnings from work that they've created were going to go bye-bye. That's nice. That's good. I'm not going to complain about that. But at the same time, you've got a Band-Aid on an open gunshot wound with this one, and it didn't do itself any favors, especially in the negative spaces. Remember, when you read these kind of notices and these statements from companies when they're trying to mea culpa, look for what is not said. Pay attention to the negative space as much as what is said in the positive space, because that'll tell you quite a bit, or at least indicate quite a lot more than they say otherwise. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to look out tomorrow, Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the next TED Excellence, which I'll be posting the link to soon, as soon as I pick one. I've got a lot to choose from this week. And always at Sunday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, is the Sunday stream, where I'll talk about a thing on a Sunday morning. Not sure what it'll be yet. You'll have to find out with me. Until then, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity. Always appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Wednesday. Hope you have a good rest of your week. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.